Entry 62. I have lost much leeway and much opportunity. I am giving up on writing things in a logical manner. I will not write from the points I want to make, but those I must make. Above all else, I must write of the bow and arrow. I suppose one could say that the bow and arrow are magical items that can draw out talent from a human, or rather from a human spirit. I have come to develop the habit of calling the artifacts the bow and arrow, as that is how I referred to them with Enya the hag. But the bow of the bow and arrow isn't really important. It's the arrow, specifically the arrow head. Pucci, if you are reading this notebook, you have already experienced it. I don't think a detailed explanation is necessary. Considering that there is still a lingering possibility that the reader is not Pucci, then I will describe the nature of the arrow in detail. Perhaps Pucci will find this review useful anyway. I have little time, so I will be brief. When someone is shot by that arrow, or in certain cases, should they have sufficient talent, a small scratch with the arrowhead will suffice. A stand is drawn from their spirit. If someone with no talent is pierced by the arrow, even if it does not strike a vital point, they will lose their life. Enya said, the more fiendish a criminal, the higher the possibility of survival. The logic surrounding that part is similar to the making of zombies, it seems. Strong malice means a strong will, and that is linked to a strong spirit. And that strength is pulled out in the form of a stand. That is a sufficient explanation. I actually became a stand user because of this arrow. I obtained the world and Hermit Purple simultaneously. The one who originally obtained this arrow is Enya the hag. She had already performed experiments, human experiments. She shot many humans with the arrow and brought about the creation of stand users in the wake of the deaths of many others who lacked the potential for a stand. Then she eliminated the stand users that did not meet her expectations. This was the experimentation process by which she learned of its nature. She even used herself, old as she was, as a test subject, granting herself justice.
Lord Dio, she said, what do you think? It certainly poses danger to your life, but I think you are one for whom the talent is expected.
I had no reason to hesitate. Or rather, I felt that having learned of the existence of such a supreme ability, I had to possess it. Had I not been a vampire, I would have liked to learn Hamon. If possible, I wanted to take the Hamon that Jonathan inherited from Zeppeli. That's why I accepted Enya's offer. It did not give me Hamon, but a different form, a ghostly Hamon. No matter what I had to sacrifice, I wanted to obtain it. Looking back on that decision now that several years have passed, it was incredibly risky. A risky bet for which even the Darby brothers would have taken heed. But that gamble resulted in my victory. What Enya the hag said was correct. Just as expected, I gained a stand. I acquired a stand and a ticket to heaven. Wait, I'm not sure about that. Did I really win the gamble? I certainly survived the trial of the bow and arrow. I acquired that which I needed, but I'm unsure. While I have an immortal body, I undertook the risk of death and gained a stand. But as a result of gaining it, Joseph Joestar and Jotaro Kujo also gained the same power, with no risk. Are they the true winners in this case? Holly Kujo broke into a fever and is at death's door. Only her, the holy woman, lost the gamble. So in the end, Joseph Joestar and Jotaro Kujo are inheritors as well. They even inherited their stands from Jonathan's body. If, back then, I rejected Enya's offer and refused to possess a stand, then Joseph Joestar, Jotaro Kujo, and of course Holly Kujo, would not even have come to know of my existence. At the very least, they were not aware of me during the time I was at the bottom of the sea. All this pales to the most important factor. If I had not obtained a stand, I could not find the path to heaven. Without the time-stopping stand, the world, I would not have been able to deduce this much of the path to heaven. Then, maybe I can still have everything as I want it. Advantages and disadvantages are two sides of the same coin. Perhaps going to heaven is not particularly different to going to hell. Perhaps while I am intending to go to heaven, I am actually heading towards hell. If that is the case, I do not mind, because I already know that hell is a better place than that town I grew up in. Entry 63. Enya the hag bought the arrowhead from someone who seemed to be just a child. That boy excavated the arrowhead in Egypt, apparently. I thought it might have shared a creator with the stone mask, but due to the discrepancy in geography of Mexico and Egypt, it seems that was not the case. However, that boy piqued my interest. Or rather, he is weighing on my mind. If I have a chance, I would like to investigate him. Now that Enya is dead, retracing that route will be difficult. At least I know that the boy's name was Diavolo. Investigating him will not be impossible, I believe, if there is gravity. If there is gravity between that boy and I am sure we will meet. After all, if that boy is alive, then he most likely became a stand user by that arrowhead, and stand users are drawn toward each other. As long as I am alive, that is. Entry 64. I have lost leeway. I have lost opportunity. I can sense that Joseph Joestar and Jotaro Kujo are close. It is likely an effect of having Jonathan's body. An effect of the Joestar family bloodline, I suppose. Our bodies respond to each other. That means it is not only I who senses their approach, but they too must sense that I am nearby. The Joestars will be here soon. They are quite close to my second hideout. Whole Horse and Boingo have not yet made contact with the enemy. I suspect they are completely carefree. That's a distinctive characteristic of Whole Horse, though I would enjoy that attitude had I a bit more leeway. Running away is an option, as is joining Pucci in America. But realistically, I cannot run away. Much like the younger Darby, I do have some level of obstinance in not wanting to flee, but that is not what I mean. As a matter of practicality, as a matter of reality, I cannot run away. The person standing at the top of an organization ought never to do something as unsightly as fleeing for safety when assassins are coming. It lacks dignity, and such actions betray one's subordinates. Even if running away was necessary to search for the path to heaven, teaching my subordinates about my lofty goal would be a Herculean task. I highly doubt I could explain all of the things I have written in this notebook, starting from my upbringing in detail to them. Why do you want to go to heaven? Do you have to go? And what is heaven exactly? Even if I answered all these questions, I doubt they could really understand. Besides, the idea of letting more people know about this endeavor, as deeply as Pucci does, makes me uneasy. Perhaps if I used an excuse, such as, it would be easier to ambush the Joestars if we moved the hideout. But to leave Cairo with this timing, let alone leaving Egypt, might overturn this organization that Enya and I built. Currently, there are only a few stand users in Cairo besides Whole Horse and Boingo. The ones that can fight against the Joestars are Pet Shop, the master of Horus, and the aforementioned younger Darby brother. Keniji and Vanilla Ice are also on their way. In other words, everyone I currently have at the mansion. It is possible that this mansion will be a battlefield in the near future. If that happens, I'm going to have to find a hiding place for this notebook. Depending on how things turn out, Joseph Joestar or Jotaro Kujo, or perhaps Jean-Pierre Polnareff or Mohammed Avdol, not Iggy of course, could catch a glimpse of this book. I must avoid that. Entry 65. I noticed I wrote, "I must avoid that," at the end of my entry yesterday. But is it really something I must avoid? Let me think about it a bit. Rather than just rejecting this idea outright, I'm going to do a bit of a brainstorm. This may be an idea I'm rushing to because so much leeway has been lost, but I think that considering such a possibility will cool my head. The idea is cooperate with the Joestar family. This should be obvious, but they have no idea what I am planning or what the goals I work to achieve are. They are working only with the intent of saving their daughter or mother. I highly doubt they are considering my circumstances at all. It's very likely that they think I am trying to dominate the world, like I did 100 years ago, or trying to stand at the pinnacle of humanity, or some such. They've presumed such things about me, that I am evil, and I must absolutely be defeated. That I am a violent killer, that's fine. I certainly cannot say it is off the mark. I am evil. The assassins I sent to kill them are also evil. The only exceptions were Kakyoin and Polnareff, whom I had controlled with the flesh buds. But they are all different from Jonathan. They do not act on a sense of justice alone. They have strong feelings towards justice, but it seems that their emotional desire to save Holly Kujo is far stronger. In that case, if I can secure Holly Kujo's life, then Joseph Joestar and Jotaro Kujo will lose their reason for trying to defeat me, won't they? So, a negotiation is possible, isn't it? Joseph Joestar's Hermit Purple, Jotaro Kujo's Star Platinum, Jean-Pierre Polnareff's Silver Chariot, Mohammed Avdol's Magician's Red, Noriaki Kakyoin's Hierophant's Green, and Iggy's The Fool. With these stand powers, the door to heaven will open all the more, will it not? As they are good people, their souls cannot become the foundation for going to heaven, but it is undeniable that theirs are strong souls. And if Jonathan's grandson lent me his knowledge, my research would progress quite rapidly, would it not? Peace between me, Dio, and the Joestar family. Such a thing would be a historical compromise. I would save their family, and they would help me attain heaven. It's quite ideal. Too much so. The only way I might describe it is as a hypothetical. If that happened, then there would be no trouble. Even for simple brainstorming, that was quite an offbeat idea. First of all, the basic premise cannot actually occur. I cannot think of any way to release Holly Kujo from her curse. Maybe if I put the stone mask on her and had its needles push on her brain, that would work. No, the stone mask no longer exists. One may exist somewhere, but at the very least I do not have one. Even if I had that option, I suppose I would be in conflict with Jonathan's two descendants, and the rest of their group. Even if I try to reach a compromise, our natures are just too different. There is no way a taker and inheritors could avoid conflict. And most of all, I highly doubt that Joseph Joestar and Jotaro Kujo have any interest in the path to heaven. Far from it. I expect that inheritors like them, living full lives, lack any desire to see heaven with their own eyes. Now I've started to make pointless considerations when I have very little time. I could not help but think about this, especially now that I have taken this body. It is something I must consider. Let's say that, rather than the stone mask, I had worn the mask of an excellent student forever. Then, though my nature wouldn't change, that time of peace in my childhood would span rather more than 7 years. 10 years? 20? 50 years? If I always pretended to be a good boy to the Joestar family, perhaps there was a future of building up the Joestar family together with Jonathan. I've thought of it. I've thought of such a heaven that could have been. George Joestar would eventually have died regardless of my poison. If I wanted fame, then making use of Jonathan's strengths would have been a very good plan. Then why didn't I do that? I took off the mask of the good student and put on the stone mask, didn't I? I believe I saw that future as impermissible. With their affluence, everything they had, I could not forgive the Joestar family. In the same way, I will not forgive these people. Joseph Joestar and Jotaro Kujo will absolutely never forgive me, Dio. To them, what I, Dio, did or am doing is completely irrelevant. They say my existence itself is evil, just the same I, Dio, say that what they did or what they are doing does not matter, because I think that their existence itself is evil. I said this to Jonathan a century ago as well. Honestly, it's quite a relationship we've formed. Entry 66. Emperor, Whole Horse, Toth, Boingo. They both have been defeated. Now, every last one of the stand users that I, Dio, had on hand, the assassin subordinates whom I sent to the Joestar group, are defeated. It is a rather refreshing feeling. I feel like I can drop all bravado. Yes, rather than bravado, I will speak of something better. Whole Horse was hit in the forehead by his own bullets, and is now in an irrecoverable state. And Boingo lost his spirit when Iggy bit him. Even so, I, Dio, assessed them to have gotten very close to accomplishing their mission. I grade them highly. Yes, they were very close to winning against the Joestars. Regardless, in the end, they lost. As if it were destined. As if it was a predetermined future. They were supposed to lose, so they lost. I'm sure they misinterpreted Toth's predictions and failed for a variety of other reasons, but ultimately, I think that the Joestar group's resolve was superior to that of the Whole Horse and Boingo team. They are surely looking at the future. Unconsciously, they are gazing at the future with resolve. For that reason, they are close to heaven. Much closer, at least, than Whole Horse or Boingo, or maybe even me. Those who gaze upon heaven gain victory, in anything, against anyone. Therefore, the true victors are those that have reached heaven. As to verifying that claim, I will leave that to another day. A later date, if I have such time, that is. Bitten by a dog, and so having his spirit broken, did not physically harm Boingo to an irrecoverable state. He will just have to spend some time in the hospital. If this situation with the Joestars is resolved, then afterwards I, Dio, might make use of his stand. Considering Boingo's personality, that may be drastic. For that which is necessary, there is nothing I will not do. I will respond as necessary to what is necessary. I have lost the majority of my closest subordinates. On the other hand, I have certainly gotten closer to heaven. I am confident that I have. With great resolve, I am getting closer.